What's going on, my fellow wealth creators? Matty Ice here. Welcome to another training. I think today is going to be a very important video. We're going to talk about how to keep up with and how to even beat inflation. I'm just going to share things that are working in my life right now. I'm going to timestamp everything too. So if there's something specific you want to skip over to, feel free to do that. I would encourage you to watch this entire video though, because all the things that I'm going to share with you have made and continue to make a really, really big difference in my life when it comes to dealing with the problem of inflation. Inflation is really, really frustrating for me. The way I think about inflation is just hidden tax. It's basically theft, where the purchasing power of our dollar is decreasing significantly every single year. And it hasn't been this bad in a pretty long time. And, people are really struggling, really hurting. Even though I'm doing things that do keep up with and are beating inflation, it's still really frustrating to, like, when you go to the grocery store, just shopping in general, like things that you normally buy are 20, 50, 200% more expensive than they were just a year ago. Like, it's just absolutely insane. And granted, the inflation rate has come down from 9.1. I think currently at the time of this recording, we're at 3.3 or 3.2, whatever. And while I guess that's good, I mean, you guys created the problem in the first place, talking about Federal Reserve, government, et cetera. But that doesn't mean prices have come down. That just means that the rate at which things are getting more expensive has slowed down. That's it. But that doesn't mean the prices of the things that we buy on a regular basis, the products and services that we purchase, that doesn't mean those things have gone down. In fact, they continue to go up. They're just going up at a slower pace, right? So it's really frustrating. And here's the thing, though, is like, what are we going to do about it? That's really the question. Is it's not going away. We're like the financial system that we're in. Inflation is a thing. It's not going away. So we can either complain about it, or we can do something about it to play the game back in our favor, right? That's really our only option. And there's very specific ways, like all different kinds of strategies and systems, methods, et cetera, for dealing with the problem of inflation. But you got to figure out what is going to work for you. And I think there's some simple things that I'm going to share with you in this video that really anybody can do that I think can start to make a difference in your life if you're not already doing them. So like I said, I'm going to timestamp everything. If you find the video helpful, just hit that like button for me, guys. Check out all the additional training and resources I'm going to have in the description for you to help you along your journey. Our journey, just sharing like what I'm doing about the inflation problem. But before we get into this, before we dive into this, let's just hear a quick word from our sponsor and we'll have some fun. Here we go. And the sponsor of today's video is me. It's one of my other companies, Reduce My FICA. If you are a business owner with at least 10 full-time W-2 employees, I need you to listen up for the next 45 seconds. If there was a supplemental health and wellness program that you could offer to your employees that would not impact or affect any current health insurance coverage that you're offering them right now, but would allow you as the business owner to save up to $500 per year per W-2 employee in FICA payroll taxes, while also significantly increasing employee recruitment and retention, is that something that you would want to know about? I would think the answer is yes, but I guess that's up to you. But that's exactly what we do. We help business owners implement these health and wellness plans and provide incredible benefits to the employee at your employees at zero net cost. In fact, a lot of the times employees see a net increase in every single paycheck of $30, $50, $100. It just depends on what their salary, hourly rate is, etc. But they actually can see a net increase in their pay while also having these amazing additional health and wellness benefits. So if that is something that you would like to learn more about, I'll have a link down below. I'll also put up the website here. You can visit us. It's reducemyficanow.com. And there's a free training video that you can request that goes into a lot more detail about how the program works, and you can decide for yourself if that makes sense for you or not. Okay. With that said, let's hop back into the video. All right, let's get into it. So I've got a bullet point list of things that I want to go through here. Like I say, these are all things that I've made and continue to make a really big impact in my life. That's why I want to share it with you guys. Some of these are going to be like what you would normally hear when you're having a conversation about dealing with inflation, but I do think they are important and worth bringing up. The first one, for example, you might think it doesn't have anything to do with beating or keeping up with inflation, but it absolutely does, at least in my experience. That's your health and fitness, taking care of yourself. All right. And it's not just about taking care of yourself. I mean, we obviously want to do that, but if we're thinking about dealing with inflation, that means like we need to be doing research on assets that we can invest in, developing more skill sets, increasing our income. We're going to talk about all that. But in order to do that, at least in the most efficient way possible, is to make sure that our productivity levels are really high. We're motivated, we're inspired, we feel good, we're not getting sick all the time, right? And when you are much more conscious about what you're putting into your body, the types of food that you're consuming, and the quality, like what are the ingredients in it? Does it have a bunch of vegetable oil? Is it processed to death, right? Versus good, wholesome, organic food, like that makes such a huge difference, at least in my life. When I stick to my nutrition, health, fitness routines, I feel so much better, guys. I feel so much more productive. I get so much more done, which obviously is going to have a very big impact on my ability to create new income streams, to research different opportunities. We're going to talk about that, like I said, but maintaining really good energy levels, productivity levels, and just feeling good about yourself. Man, that just goes such a long way, in my opinion. And it's something that is absolutely within our control. See, the things that cause inflation, we don't really have any control over that. We don't have control over how much money they print, or the disastrous fiscal and monetary policies that they implement. We can't really control that, right? But one of the things we can control is our own bodies. Like what do we feed ourselves? How much physical activity do we get every single day, every single week, whatever? And I'm not saying you have to be like this shredded bodybuilder or anything like that. Like you don't have to go crazy with it, but just whatever it makes you feel good, more productive. I think just, man, it makes such a huge difference. So I wanted to throw that out there. I know that's not like usually something you hear about when dealing with inflation, but it has a lot of indirect benefits, I guess, when dealing with something like inflation, because it has such a huge impact on your productivity levels. Now, next, let's talk about lowering expenses. I want to share a couple of examples of doing this. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to lower expenses. Obviously, your situation is going to be unique to you, the type of expenses that you have. But one thing I recently did, actually I did it today at the time of this recording, was shopping around for different types of insurance as well. Like homeowners insurance is crazy. I rent an apartment right now, but my car insurance has like gone through the roof, man, comparatively speaking, especially considering what I started out at. I think I started at like $122 a month. It's now $173 per month. And since I got that insurance, my credit has improved pretty significantly. I even gave them multiple opportunities to like reset my premium based on that, because that your credit score can have a pretty big impact on that. They didn't do it, so I shopped around today. I lowered my car insurance from $173 per month to $111 per month, and I have like way more coverage. All right, so now that's not a significant amount of money that I'm saying, but it's $60 a month. That's a full tank of gas in my car. That's groceries or whatever, like that kind of stuff adds up. So with things like that, it might be a good idea to shop around, get quotes from like different competitors. It doesn't even have to be a car insurance. I'm just giving you an example, but what are some regular goods and services that you normally use that you might be able to get a better deal, right? Car insurance is a great way to do that. Doesn't hurt to get a quote, right? And you might end up saving $50, $100 a month. Who knows? Like actually, I could have saved way more than the $60 a month. Because it was so much lower, I decided to add more coverage. I was like, well, why not? I'm already paying $173 a month. If I pay $111 a month, I'm still saving money. Plus I have way more coverage. But my monthly payment, if I just kept the same type of coverage, would have been $65 a month. That's like I would have saved $110 a month just on that right there. So take a good hard look at your expenses and see if there's ways to reduce those expenses. Are there better deals or better offers out there, right? Make people earn your business, guys. I do this sometimes with software in my business, right? Consolidating different pieces of software, the sponsorship video, right? If you're a business owner and you're not implementing a program like that can literally add thousands, tens of thousands of dollars back to your bottom line every single year, what are you doing? You have to explore programs, options like that. Like where are where are the leaks in the holes in the bucket that you can start to plug, right? That are just draining your business, draining your personal finances, right? And is there a way for you to add an extra $100, $200, $300, $500 per month, whatever, back to your bottom line by reducing your expenses? All right, we're going to talk about increasing income here in a second, but lowering expenses where you can make a big difference. So don't overlook that, guys. Write out all of your expenses, and I'm not really talking about like saving $5 here, $3 there, whatever. I mean, I guess that stuff can add up too. But like your larger expenses do you have some different options there, right? Can you get some different quotes, right? So make sure you're doing everything you can to lower your expenses, because that's an instant return on investment right there. All right, and obviously, the more money you put back to your bottom line, the more you're able to deal with the impact of inflation. All right. Something else I think is pretty cool too. Again, it's not really talked about it, but it's simple things that really anybody can do. Take advantage of credit card and bank promos. Now, we're going to talk about like debt consolidation too, because like, guys, if you have crazy amounts of credit card debt, and listen, I get it. I've been there where I had to live on credit cards for a long time. If that's what you have to do, that's just the situation that you're in. It is what it is. You still need to be making sure that you're increasing income and stuff like that. We'll get into that in a second here. But if you use credit cards properly, and also bank promos, all right, let's actually start with that. Again, the reason I'm sharing this specific method with you right now is because it's something that I just did in my own life. And I set up a new LLC and bank account for Millennial Wealth Creator. And I got, this direct mail stuff, whatever, these promos that come in. And I set up a new account at this bank, and I'm going to get $350 cash into my account after I do 10 transactions. So and it doesn't even matter how big the transaction size is. I could swipe it for $1. I could buy $5 of gas, whatever. As soon as I hit 10, 10 transactions, I get $350, and all I did was open a bank account. So my question to people is, like, do you really have any like significant loyalty or allegiance to your bank? Well, if not, then maybe explore these different promos. I mean, banks will give you some pretty good deals for opening up new accounts. Are those promos active right now? Like, can you maybe move some money over to this account? You get $350. That's not bad. Same thing with these credit card rewards and stuff. Now, again, I have to stress this. You have to pay your credit card off every single month if you're going to do this. Rewards on credit cards don't mean jack squat if you're maxed out on the card and you're paying 25% interest, but you're earning 1.5% cash back on every single transaction. That's ridiculous. That's a horrible deal. You don't want to do that. All right, we'll get into debt consolidation here in a second, or a little bit later. But like, for example, one of the cards that I have, it's 2% cash back on every purchase. It doesn't matter what it is. And obviously, running a couple of different businesses, I have a pretty decent amount of expenses every single month. And so those are expenses that I'm going to pay anyways. Why not pay it in the most efficient way possible, where I get paid 2% back, and I pay that credit card off every single month? But this month, I got $124 in cashback rewards. That, I mean, like, what can that do, right? And again, we're adding all these things up. So I lowered my car insurance. I've got the bank promo. I've got $124 coming back from my rewards card, etc. All that stuff really starts to add up, right? So you got to make sure you're really responsible with your credit cards. You got to pay them off every single month in order for that method to really make sense. But if you're good with credit cards, like, you're not going to max it out, you are going to pay it off every single month. Get a card that gets you 1.5-2% cash back. Another one, guys, a lot of people shop on Amazon. I do the same exact thing with my Amazon Prime card now. You get 5% back on every single purchase you make on Amazon. That adds up really quick. Yeah, you got to make sure you pay it off every single month, but those rewards really start to add up. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. All right. Now, I want to get into, like, those are things like lowering expenses, just basic things, doing, certain things a little bit different way. If you're going to make a purchase, why not get 2% cash back on it, 5% cash back, whatever. All right. Those are things that just about anybody can do. Of course, anybody can do and should do the next things I'm going to talk about, but these are going to be more specific to income. All right. Increasing income, creating multiple income streams. Again, later on, we're going to talk about financial efficiency and we'll get into investing and stuff like that, right? But the first thing that like before we do any type of investing, again, this is what my journey was. All right. When I was super broke and I was doing the whole thing, living on credit cards or whatnot, I was not thinking about investing in anything, right? Like $100 invested in a Bitcoin or the stock market, is that gonna, like, what's that going to do? $1,000 invested into that. I mean, maybe in the really, really long run, maybe that could do something on a consistent basis. But if you're struggling to keep up with and deal with inflation, we're not, at least in my particular case, I wasn't worried about 30, 40 years down the road. I needed to fix my income now. I need to fix the problems that I'm dealing with now, not worrying about what's going to happen 30, 40 years later on down the road. When we have a solid financial foundation in place, then that's when I started to really think about that stuff. But I had to fix my income first. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're living on the credit cards, it's not necessarily like you do want to do things about lowering your expenses if you can, but what you really have is a cash flow problem. You have to increase cash flow. You have to increase your income, right? So how do we do that? Well, for me, that comes down to skill sets. Providing as much value to the marketplace as you possibly can. And I'm not even talking about like starting a business. We're going to talk about that in a second. But what about like, even if you're W-2 employee right now, what can you do right now to become better at what you currently do so that maybe you get promoted? Maybe you can ask for a raise. Maybe they see your increased productivity and what you're doing for the company, maybe get a bonus. I don't know, right? But becoming more valuable, and actually, I guess another side of that conversation is that making yourself indispensable to the company to make sure you don't lose your job, because unemployment is apparently starting to become a little bit of a problem. That's just a disaster. Losing your job and the cost of everything is going up. Like that's like kind of the worst case financial situation right there in scenario. So making yourself more indispensable by providing more value with to what you do and becoming better and better and better at it, I think is really, really important. But here's another side of that is developing additional skill sets. Maybe you start the side hustle. See, here's the thing. I personally believe, just again, based on my experience, everybody should have some type of content channel. Even if you're not a business owner, even if you're a W-2 employee, I don't care. You are an expert at something. You are better at something, better than most people at something. Even if you don't think you are. But here's the thing too. You have a journey, right? You have a message to share with somebody, with the world. Like your journey, your message, and what happens in your own world is unique to you, and that can be really inspiring to others as well. So I want to give a couple of examples of this really quick, and then we'll move on, because I think this is really important. I think it's really overlooked. I'm so passionate about this particular topic because of what it did for my life. When I started the YouTube channel for my marketing agency, it's exactly why I started this YouTube channel too, guys, is because I have witnessed the incredible power of sharing your journey, sharing your message with the world on whatever platform you want. It could be YouTube, it could be a blog. Medium.com is a great way to get started. It could be a podcast. You can start on LinkedIn. I don't care. But just starting to share your expertise with the world can absolutely change your life. Now, will it change your life overnight? Of course not. But compound it over time. If you're consistent with it, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever, like, people start to follow you. They start to resonate with your message. And now that creates, like, once you start getting attention, you start getting eyeballs on your message, right? That's where you can really start to, that's where a lot of opportunity presents itself. So for example, even if you're a W-2 employee, for example, I used to work at a call center in Las Vegas, and we did, booked reservations and stuff like that. Okay. Now you might think to yourself, well, how do you turn that into a business? How do you turn that into a side hustle? Well, it just so happens to be, I was really good at it. I didn't particularly enjoy it very much, but I was also really good at it. That could have been an opportunity for me to say, hey, if I'm going to do this every day anyways, why not share my journey with it? Share why I'm good at it. Like what are some specific things I do in the call center, on sales calls, booking reservations, whatever, right, that I could share with the world. Like I'm already doing it anyways, right? I might as well document it as I go along, right? I'm not talking about like, recording yourself at the call center or whatever. That might be a little bit extreme. I'm just talking about like, what if you just did a quick download every single day, just sharing how your day went at the job. Like, what were the learning lessons? What were your experiences? How did you deal with it? Try to think about how can that apply to your particular job, right? And start sharing that with the world. And maybe eventually you put a course together. There's affiliate programs that you can share with people. There's content channels where you can get monetized, where you can get paid ad revenue for every single piece of content that you create. So, and what it allows you to do is create multiple income streams with one particular set of skills. Okay, if you're running this applies to business owners too. I'll give you a great example for this, for business owners. All right, creating multiple streams of income with this. I'm working with an old employer of mine, father figure as well, mentor, etc. He runs a very successful hair salon here in Florida, in Jacksonville, and I keep telling him all the time, like, you have a whole other audience, a whole other revenue stream that you could start to create if you started sharing how to build a successful salon. You've already done it. You continue to do it every single day. Why not document that journey, share it on a content channel? People eventually find it, and maybe you do coaching, one-on-one consulting, done for you services. You put a course together, whatever. You have affiliate programs, referral partners. I don't care. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But you got to get started. That's the main thing. Like, start sharing your journey. Start sharing what you are really good at, guys. And I'm telling you, you do that consistently over a long enough period of time, it can absolutely change your life. So if you want to start creating multiple income streams in your life, start thinking about what are you really good at and what would be an effective channel or platform for me to start sharing that expertise with the world, no matter what it is. It doesn't even have to be your job. Maybe you work your job, you hate your job or whatever, but you come home and you're really good at playing the guitar or an instrument, or you're really good at gaming. I don't care. Like, guys, you should see some of the gaming channels, like how many views they get. All they're doing is recording themselves playing video games, and they get hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views. You know what that is? That's ad revenue. You put links in the description to different programs or whatnot. Like, you can really clean house with that kind of stuff. So just think about what you're good at. Think about what you're passionate about. What is easy for you to talk about, and then pick a platform to start sharing that with you guys. I promise you can absolutely change your life. Let's see. So skill sets, self-education, that kind of ties into it. Like I was combining skill sets and self-education. Like, so if you land on a new skill set that you want to learn, obviously there's an education process. Go onto YouTube. I mean, you can learn just about anything on YouTube these days. Like, it's the world's university, in my opinion, YouTube. So you can learn anything that you want on YouTube. And, as assuming that you do take action, which I implore you to do. It could be one of the best decisions you ever make for your finances is sharing your expertise with the world. But you're going to start learning additional skill sets. Like, so when you make that decision, you're going to have to self-educate on, okay, how do I, like, if you want to do a YouTube channel, how do I create a YouTube video? How do I create a channel? What do I talk about? How do I come up with different topics for these videos? How do I edit, right? You're going to learn these different skill sets, and those are really valuable skill sets as well. You might get people that see your content and say, hey, I really like this content. Do you do video editing for other clients? Maybe that's a whole new opportunity that presents itself, right? You just don't know exactly where it's going to go, but it opens up so many more opportunities for you. So always making sure that you're educating yourself, guys, feeding your mind with good stuff, and learning valuable skill sets that you can bring to the marketplace. I think it's just really important. All right, we talked about content channel. Let's get into some like the asset side, the investing side of it. And obviously, guys, I mean, I guess I have to say it. This is not financial advice at all. I'm not a financial advisor, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing my journey, what's working for me. All right, so this is more along the lines of a traditional type of conversation that people have around dealing with inflation is, where do we put our money? What kind of assets can we invest in? And again, just sharing what I'm doing. So for long-term inflation, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. You don't have to be. That's totally fine. I think Bitcoin is going to be an incredible inflation. It has been over the past decade. I think the average, it's gone up 200% on average every year. I'm not a huge fan of average rate of return, but it just goes to, it's outperformed every other asset class. So I personally put not a huge amount of money, but I dollar cost average into it every month or two, and I just keep accumulating. I use staking rewards and stuff as well to purchase more Bitcoin, etc. So investing in assets that can outpace inflation. Stock market as well. I'm not a huge fan of the stock market, but things like I'm learning about real estate investment trusts right now. I think those could be a really good opportunity in the near future. I'm not doing it right now because there's just so much uncertainty in the markets at the moment. I'm talking about stock market, real estate market. Like, we don't really know are we going to have a soft landing, or are we going to have a hard landing? Some people are calling for, a greater depression. Like we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. So I'm taking this time right now to educate myself, learn new skill sets. All right. So I like real estate investment trusts because they own real estate. Dividends tend to be really good with things like real estate investment trust. I'm looking at TLT as well because we have interest rates that are really high. Eventually, I think they're going to have to bring those down. When that happens, TLT should do really well. All right, so just looking at these, like what I've been taught is asymmetrical opportunities, right? Where we have the potential for a lot more gain than realistically the loss. There's other parts of that, but anyways, those are some things I'm looking at. But the main thing that I'm doing right now to keep up with inflation, because like that's my kind of set it and forget it. I kind of stuff. Like I don't ever think any type of investment is like set it and forget it, but that would be my long-term stuff that, I'm just accumulating. I'm not trading it. I'm not worried about selling it. I'm not putting in so much that it's depleting my cash reserve. So if I have an emergency or a different opportunity, I have to sell those assets in order to do it. This is literally stuff that I could forget about for 30, 40 years and have no issue with it, right? And eventually that I think that is really, really going to pay off. But what I'm doing actively right now that I'm getting into is private money lending. So obviously real estate can be a phenomenal inflation hedge, all right? And what I love about real estate is there's so many different ways to do it, right? Now, what it comes down to, again, just in my experience, is figuring out what kind of real estate investor you would want to be, right? Do you want to be the investor that's closing deals, negotiating with sellers, and fix and flip, like handling all the renovations and flipping it for tens of thousands of dollars in profit, whatever? Or do you want a more passive approach like me? See, I don't want to do any of that. And even if I make less money, I'm still able to, like, for me, where I want to focus most of my attention is creating content and building my businesses, et cetera. But that doesn't mean I don't want to put my money to work in the real estate market. So private money lending is a great way to get involved with real estate, because when you lend the money out, you're making a really good interest rate. I'm about to close on my first deal right now, and I'm lending it out at 12%. And of course, I'm implementing the infinite banking concept. I talk about that on my channel all the time. So I borrow from my cash value life insurance policies, whole life and dividend paying whole life, not IUL. And so I borrow at 5.5%. I lend it out at 12 plus points. My policy continues to get that uninterrupted tax-free compound growth as well. So I'm essentially making money twice. It's awesome, right? But the great thing is that with the private money deal, it's backed by a hard asset. It's backed by the real estate. I'm not just giving somebody money. So like when people hear lending, sometimes they're like, oh, you're going to give a stranger a bunch of money? That sounds really risky. It's not, because it's backed by the asset. You're literally being the bank, right? What happens and what does the bank do if you don't pay your mortgage? They take the property and they sell it to recoup all of their money plus some, right? It's the same thing with private money lending, where your money is secured by the actual asset itself, the real estate, and oftentimes you get a personal guarantee from the borrower as well. So for me, it's a really good way to keep up with inflation, put your hard-earned money to work. I mean, for me, I see it as just kind of printing our own money. So they're going to print, the feds are going to print a bunch of money. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to act like the bank in this particular situation. It's very passive. Obviously, there's a little bit of work that goes involved with due diligence and paperwork and stuff like that. But I'm not dealing with any of the contractors. I don't have to deal with the renovations. I don't have to deal with marketing the property and getting it sold or anything like that. I just lend money on the deal. And then when it's done, I get paid my interest plus points, whatever. That's it. All the while, I'm still working on my business, doing what I want to do. So I'm a much more passive real estate investor. Those are just a couple of ways that you can get involved in real estate. One of the ways I got involved a long time ago, what I was trying to do, I got so close, man. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but I almost flipped the contract for $7,000, and it was pretty sweet. Unfortunately, I got into a deal with the wrong person. They screwed me over, and I got paid nothing. Is what it is. But all I did was get the property under contract. It was a really good deal. It wasn't going to take a ton of renovations. It had a lot of potential equity in it, and I basically I was going to flip that contract to an investor who wanted to do the renovations, and I was going to make $7,000 on that transaction. So maybe you don't have the capital to invest in real estate, but you have the motivation, you have the sweat equity that you can put into it, right? You have the knowledge on how to go out and negotiate a really good deal, like pick up these really good deals, and then you flip that contract to an investor. Like, what's the return on investment on that? What does that do in your battle against inflation? If you could make an extra $5,000 flipping a real estate contract, right? And again, it comes down to self-education. Get on YouTube, learn how to do that, learn different real estate strategies, because real estate is a phenomenal inflation hedge. Of course, you can own rental property as well. I'm not a huge fan of that. Maybe later on down the road, like multifamily units, but there's also some turnkey real estate investment companies out there. I used to work for one here in Jacksonville. They're fantastic. You're buying cash flow. Like the property is either new construction or renovated. It's already rented out, cash flowing. You're just buying the cash flow, right? So, and your return on investment there, is that above inflation? It usually is. Like my 12%. Like if inflation's 3.5, let's say, and I'm earning 12% plus points, I am now beating inflation. And the reason I'm doing that is because I educated myself. I developed a new skill set, identified a new opportunity, right, to take advantage of. And then I educated myself on that. And now it's starting to bear fruit. It's starting to pay off. That's why, I was talking to my friend Jeff Kamke over at Wealth Energetics about this on another training. We were talking about inflation, and we kept going back to the skill sets. Right? Developing new skill sets, learning new strategies and how to take advantage of opportunities. What are some specific things I can do to keep up and outpace inflation, right? So those are just some different, on the investing side of it, like putting my money to work. Those are some things that I'm doing right now. I also I flip heavy equipment. I should mention that too. It's very similar to flipping real estate, but it's just with heavy equipment, right? So it's typically a lot easier process where we're not dealing with a bunch of contractors and stuff like that. Not that that's bad, but it's just, again, it's a more passive way for me to put my money to work. It gets really good returns on investment, and far greater than inflation. So identifying these opportunities, guys, is really, really important, and then educating yourself on how they work. All right, so Bitcoin, let's see, other like cryptocurrency, not a ton, but those are things that like long term. I'm not trading or anything. Just 30, 40 years down the road, that would kind of be the equivalent of my own retirement account, I guess you could call it. The real estate investment trust, doing the private money lending, doing the, flipping heavy equipment, etc. All right. So those are some some ways that I'm putting my money to work to get those return on investments far better, far greater than what inflation is. All right. We talked about this a little bit, consolidating high interest credit card debt, and then I want to wrap up with financial efficiency. So guys, again, I get it. If you are living paycheck to paycheck and you have no choice but to, it's either put the groceries on the credit card or we don't have food tonight. I get it. I've been there. All right. Obviously, though, we want to start thinking long term as well, if we can. And what are some different ways that we can deal with that? Now, if you are, and that would be increasing your income, increasing the cash flow, like we already talked about. But let's say you're not, living on credit cards, but you still have a lot of credit card debt that you're paying. Maybe you're making the minimum interest payments, or maybe you're making minimum payments. Maybe a little bit above whatever, my mom was. I did a video on this where I used my policies to consolidate all of her credit card debt. And now she just pays back the policy loan. So think about the return on investment on that and what that can do in fighting inflation. I can tell you exactly what it does because it's what happened with my mom. So if you have a way of consolidating that high interest rate credit card debt, you absolutely want to do that, whether that's with setting up a whole life insurance policy for that. I know people that do that. It's definitely not for everybody, but it's an option to explore. I have a friend that works at, I think it's, what is it, Freedom Debt Relief? I can't remember the exact name, but it's one of those debt consolidation companies. And granted, what happens a lot of the times is you do take a hit on your credit, but if you're already if you're close to maxed out on your credit cards anyways, your credit's probably not that great. At least it probably won't be for very long. So you might have to take a hit on your credits in the short term, but in the long run, if you think about the return on investment of not having that 25% compounding interest on your credit cards anymore, what that can do for your finances, and you can always fix your credit later. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm not telling you to ruin your credit or anything. This was my journey though. I eventually, once I maxed out my credit cards, I couldn't sustain it anymore. I just stopped and I explored my options for consolidating it. And my credit was bad for a long time. But as I started to reprioritize what I was doing in my life, instead of worrying about investing and stuff like that, and what do I invest my money in? I focused on building a financial foundation first, fixing my income, fixing my cash flow, fixing where do I put my money, where do I save my money. We're going to talk about that next. We'll wrap up with that. But consolidating that high interest rate credit card debt. And now my credit is great. I'm at, last time I checked, I'm at 770, I think. So while it was painful going through it, and it sucks having really bad credit, if that's for me, that's just what I had to do in order to fix my life. I could not pay on the credit cards anymore. It was just draining me. And I eventually just stopped. And, but, eventually I recovered from it. And I think anybody can, especially once you get that financial foundation in place, you fix your income and cash flow. So doing something to consolidate your credit card debt, I know it put hundreds of dollars per month back into my mother's pocket. Once she was no longer paying 25-30% interest on credit cards, now she's paying, it's 5.5% on my policy loan. She just pays off the policy loan. That's it. So instead of 25%, she's paying 5.5%. Simple interest. So what can that do for your life, guys? And not to mention, that significantly improved her credit as well, which maybe now she gets a different quote on her car insurance. Maybe that lowers her rent next time she renews her lease. I don't know. Having good credit can do a lot of things for lowering expenses, but you got to be able to consolidate that credit card debt somehow, if possible. Lastly, let's talk about financial efficiency. I'll just wrap up with this because, I talk about this a lot on my channel, but, guys, I'm a huge fan of custom designed dividend paying cash value whole life insurance policies for emergency funds, opportunity funds. I've moved a large portion of my safe money that I was just saving, for an emergency, opportunities, etc. And I moved that out of the bank because it wasn't doing anything for me in the bank. Whereas if I have it in my policy, I have access to the majority of the money anyways. I literally just took a policy loan from one of my policies, and it was in my account in 2 business days. It's for my private money deal. So it's I still have really good access to, I still have good liquidity, good enough. Yes, I'm going to pay a little bit of simple interest on it, but I would argue that's actually creates a better savings account, because if you're going to have to pay a little bit of interest on that, the emergency that's come up, is it really that big of an emergency? Maybe not though, right? Makes you think twice a little bit about spending the money that you're saving. But anyways, it's a small price to pay to get that uninterrupted tax-free compound growth in the policy. So if you're saving money, my question is always, why not save it in the most efficient way possible, right? So again, this is a great way to combat inflation, because, and I just did a whole video on whether whole life insurance is a good or bad inflation hedge. I had an entire conversation with somebody about this in the comment section of one of my videos. And I would argue that it absolutely is a really good inflation hedge when these policies are set up right. They typically net, when they're set up correctly, 3.5, upwards of 5% net. That's after fees, tax-free compound growth for as long as you have the policy. I think that's pretty good. So if my policy earns 4% on average throughout the life of the policy, and inflation is at 3%, is that beating inflation? It's at least keeping up with it. Yeah. And then I can use the policy to build wealth like I normally would, which I'm doing with flipping equipment and doing the private money lending, right? So all of this financial efficiency, like where I put my money first, because that money is going to grow. Obviously, too, I have the death benefit. If something were to happen to me, my loved ones are taken care of. That to me is like just an amazing external rate of return. Just that peace of mind, knowing that I have this really strong financial foundation in place. The people I care about and love would be cared for financially if something were to happen to me. There's so much power in that, kind of like what I was talking about in the beginning of this video, the indirect external rates of return that you get from fitness and health in your productivity levels and getting all of these things done, starting that side hustle, being more productive at work, whatever, right? It's all that external rate of return that we don't often really talk about, but there's just these policies are so efficient, guys. And for me, it's a great way to hedge and keep up with inflation. So if you're saving money, why not save in the most efficient way possible? That's going to get that uninterrupted tax-free compound growth. It still gives you liquidity for emergencies and opportunities. You have the death benefit in case something happens to you. I don't know. I think that's pretty sweet. So anyways, I'll go ahead and wrap up with that, guys. I know it's a little bit of a longer video, but I wanted to be thorough and just share all these things that I'm doing in my life that are working for me right now. Hopefully you can take a couple of tips from this, a couple of nuggets that will help you in your life. I know that these things have been pretty phenomenal in mine, which is why I wanted to share it with you. So if you have any questions, if you want to have a conversation about this, I'm an open book, guys. I'll link my calendar down below. We could talk about policy. We could talk about starting the YouTube channel. I don't care. Whatever you want to discuss. If there's something I can help you with, please book a call on my calendar. Myself or my team are glad to have a conversation with you and just help you along your journey. All right. So anyways, I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope that this was valuable, and I will talk to you in the next one. To your success, Matty Ice is out.